Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Crushing Comics This Week in X. This is the epic second part of our finale of going through all of the weeks of the X of Swords crossover. We are here with the final issue, the 22nd issue of 22, which is X of Swords Destruction. And we are going to dig into it straight away. Tyler and Free and I, no introductions, no preamble. You're hopefully here because you listened to the first half of this episode previously, and we're going right to it. So, and just so everybody who knows who hasn't listened to an episode before, A, there's plenty to listen to, but B, we're going to just spoil everything. Everything that could be spoiled will be spoiled. We're just heartless. We're not going to do it. We're maybe going to say a warning. We might not, but just know that this is in general full spoiler territory that you're entering into right now. So
we're spoiler monsters.
We are spoiler monsters. Well, we're opening up here on something that personally is very exciting to me as an old X-Men fan, which is Saturnyne pulls the magic card, and from her drunken puzzle making in the last issue, she has drawn the card that indicates that the Captain Britain Corps is back.
And they're all, before they were all Brian the human, but now they're all Betsy the mutant. All of them.
Betsy has a frog, Betsy has a swan, Betsy has a gorilla.
It doesn't matter. It's all Betsy's. Like, you know. So to that, I actually had a question regarding
and Betsy with a purple beard.
It can't be. Why are you judging people with beard? What's wrong with you? I have a couple of beard over here. What's wrong with you?
No, she has a full grown beard, like like one of the dwarfs.
Yes. So my question to that is Captain Britain Corps historically has always been Brian's, right? Like that's what we've been told all this time. Like it's always been
mostly. It's one of those things where like it's somewhat of a universal constant, but then occasionally you get somebody who like for some reason has taken the mantle instead, but like usually it's Brian's.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
so now
occasionally the Captain Britain might be evil, even though it's Brian.
Yeah, there's like a Nazi cop to Captain Britain. Yeah. Just like Superman.
There's there's a humped man, whatever his name.
Sometimes he's a Nazi, sometimes he's black, he's always Superman.
Right, but I mean, I thought that, that was because in that universe, German took over England. That's why he's, all of that. Anyway, doesn't matter. So my question to that is, did they all become Betsy because the love spell backfired?
Mm-hmm. That's my read of it.
Well, that's a really interesting question.
Because,
because that's why I was like, she was like, no, before. Like, is that why?
Yeah, because that's the quote, right? And right at the front of Excalibur, right, was saying that, if you're not careful and if you're powerful, the backfire spell is going to backfire spectacularly. Right? I think, what was the quote? Let me see. She says that, the last line of the quote is, and magic is a harsh teacher.
So not only she erased, she can't have Brian the human, she's also erased Brian the humans from other realities or converted them over to non-Captain Britain. So harsh. It is.
Well, it's interesting. There's layers. I mean, Hickman took apart the Captain Britain Corps in Secret Wars, right? So on one hand, did he kill all the Bryans? Well, they would probably be brought back after Secret Wars because Franklin started remating all the other Earths and they've got all their people intact, Brian included necessarily. But just because Franklin remade the other Earths, it doesn't mean that he put back all of the same magic that was on the other Earths. So even if there were Bryans, they're not necessarily Captain Britons because the kind of magical power to make the Captain Britain Corps adhere to itself was missing. And that's part of what she was trying to get back. She had one Captain Britain left effectively, and she was trying to use that little sprout to regrow all of the Captain Britons. But because she regrew it from Betsy, it summoned all the Betsies instead of the Bryans. That was my read on it. Not that there were Betsies out there and there were Bryans out there, but because she used Betsy to kindle the spell, she pulled all the Betsies instead of pulling all the Bryans. That's my interpretation.
Right, and I think I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing of that, the love spell backfired and then kind of forced this to happen. Even though her initial thing was that even from Betsy, she can get all the Bryans back. But because
didn't turn out that way. Because I think she was, again, ego. She was making the assumption like, well, it doesn't matter if it's Betsy because it's Captain Britain. And I know that Brian is always Captain Britain. It doesn't matter if Betsy happens to be Captain Britain right now. But no, actually, that's not how it turned out. You just cemented the fact that all of the Betsy's are Captain Britons now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Peter, you have a pretty interesting comment about Hickman.
Well, right, because this is the opposite direction that Hickman usually goes, right? Hickman usually likes breaking toys. I mean, he brings new toys to the game, but Hickman is about destruction. But here we are in X of Swords Destruction, and he's putting back this huge piece of the Marvel Universe that gave birth to the whole idea of 616. Maybe this was just all a tie into the Disney Plus documentary 616 about Marvel comic books being made. Maybe they felt they couldn't have it be called that without bringing back the Captain Britain Corps. Maybe Alan Moore insisted. We don't know. But this does feel very un-Hickman to bring back such a big thing. Although he does mine. He brought back the Space Knights. I mean, he brought back Beyonders. I mean, Hickman does dig for obscure stuff. But this is an act of creation that I really appreciate because I love Captain Britain.
But doesn't he always kind of does that at the beginning of all of his run and then takes them all away at the end? Because if you look at his Marvel Universe, like, his work so far, in Fantastic Four, which was kind of like in the middle of his Marvel career, he started the Council of Reeds, and then obviously by Secret Wars, everything was gone. Everything was gone, and they're coming back. But that's what I'm saying. So isn't it kind of like that as well, that this is kind of midpoint of his X-Men run? So he's bringing something back.
Only to later destroy it.
Yeah, don't
Only
get
to break my heart later.
Don't get too attached.
Exactly. Don't get too attached. Like, as Matt Jasper said, or whoever, someone said.
Well, in the middle of them coming back, the X-Men are still in the middle of this fight against the teeming masses. And we get this panel that's fantastic for many different reasons. Brian the Human saying, "My God, look up, mutants, look up." Not only great because it draws the attention to the fact that he's Brian the Human, not only great because it's a great kick-ass moment, but Pepe Larraz's art, my God, it's like two Renaissance paintings next to each other here in this diptych of panels. I mean, it feels like one of those issues where we really could stop on every page and talk about every choice that Larraz makes in every single panel of what to draw and how to frame it. Is there anybody on his level right now? Like, I feel like he's gone from the beginning of Hoxpox to now to being just one of the most superstar artists in all of comics.
And you can also say that from how similar his artwork is to Mahmoud Asrar. We have seen that Asrar make mistakes or don't necessarily know to placement or stuff like that.
And it's just missing that secret sauce. Larraz just has this extra thing that he does.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, that it just comes together.
This was something which he worked on pretty hard, right? Because I think when Larraz was previously on, he did draw X-Men before. It did not garner that big of an attention, right? Before he jumped onto Hoxpox.
Yeah, he was around and people liked him, but he was kind of like a niche favorite. It was like, oh yeah, Larraz is cool, but Asrar was definitely somebody that people got more excited about a year and a half ago than Larraz. But now I would buy anything. I mean, he could draw a comic franchise that I hate. He could draw, and I would go and buy. He could be drawing Sonic the Hedgehog, and I would go and buy it. I would read him on anything.
What you have against Sonic the Hedgehog?
I tried when they relaunched Sonic the Hedgehog a year or two ago. I'm like, I remember these games. I'm gonna read it. And I give everything a chance. I've tried Sonic the Hedgehog. I've tried Power Rangers. I really will try anything once, but sometimes it's just, I'm not a big enough fan to get hooked in here. Okay, so Larraz is amazing. So, but here in the story, Annihilation is making things real bad. I mean, we have 8 because Gordon's dead. So we have 8 X-Men plus the Captain Britain Corps. But Annihilation seemingly has every eldritch horror that's available to her to pull through these portals that are popping up everywhere. She's got all these crazy infected, maybe they're mutants, maybe they're demons, I'm not sure. I mean, it just feels like totally unwinnable odds here.
Yeah, I mean, he basically have the entire group of summoners, pull in all the demons, minor demons, major elementals. Basically, seems like it is the is overwhelming odds, against the X-Men. So what did they do?
And it looked and it looked like they get their act together, because they're also the kind of people who are like, destroy our enemies. So they're like really living up to that second law of their
oh yeah,
country.
that's right.
Yeah.
They're like, destroy our enemies.
But technically they are not Arakis. They are Amethians. So that's a little bit of a difference.
But going back to the summoning circle, first of all, like, kind of fun, even though our main summoner died, to be reminded, that was not the only summoner. And they still, that was just one summoner. What are we going to do with all? Hickman loves his naked white people. That came out weird, but he does. And
there's also an inverted one, a black with like white paint on him.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in the crowd there's an inverted one? Yeah. So interesting. There's several inverted ones.
There's several inverted ones.
And have we met the blacked out ones with the white inscriptions yet? No.
Yeah. But it just reminds me of like East of West. So
yeah, that's a very East of West. Yeah. But talking about reminders too, like the page where Magic is like, okay, that's not good, to all of the Eldritch Horrors coming through, made me really think of like Magic saying this is not good because she's pulled this trick before. Magic did this exact thing in Zeb Wells' New Mutants, and it's almost like, for people who really know their X-Men, she's like, oh, I've seen how this one turns out. This is not good. This is not a good plan for us. But then immediately following that, we always love to be right here. It's not always Magneto who is right. Sometimes it's Tyler, because as he predicted, the 10th sword here is the peak. And I turn the stage over to our associate Tyler to talk more on that.
Well, basically, all the X-Men, all the Krakoans who volunteered to come rescue the sword bearers somehow got into the peak. And Magic opened the stepping disc and the pick got driven down, or pull the pick right on top of Starlight Citadel. So I have a question, which I don't think, I don't know the answer to, because I could have missed some stuff that has changed. But shouldn't the stepping disc has a layover in Limbo?
Technically, I think that's her power. It's not just teleportation. It's teleportation via Limbo. That is her actual power.
Exactly. So how did this work? She opened up and the peak went in somehow through Limbo and came out on the other side?
Yeah, it's not like everybody spends like a whole summer vacation in Limbo when she summons a stepping disc, right? Like they're frequently shown as being instantaneous. So time doesn't have to pass. She can make time pass, but she doesn't have to. So I kind of just assume that she just opens it up in some kind of like no land of Limbo but it's interesting because per Hickman, Limbo is maybe created or accessed via the violence of the Twilight Sword originally, back when Apocalypse, or have we decided that that's actually been Amenth all along? I remember when we were talking in X-Men Report, we were like, oh, it's Limbo, there's demons, but like now are we supposed to think that they're different things again?
I think they're supposed to be different things.
Okay, because I liked that version of things. Yeah, I liked when it was Limbo.
I thought it was Limbo. Yeah. So before, and then the panel between Cable and Cyclops communicating telepathically, I really like that design where, that flare of Cable's eye turns into Cyclops' visor. Yeah.
So cool. This is what I mean about Larraz, though. Like, maybe Hickman scripted that, maybe he didn't. We'll probably never know. But just, decisions, great decisions on how to do this stuff. And it reminds me, too, of the way that Larraz, I was drawing House of X, and when they were on the space mission, had Storm making the hydrokinesis version of Jean, and just like the whoa, like who thinks of like drawing Jean that way, even if it was written into the script. And I kind of had that here too, in the way that he was using the psychic communication. At one point, Magic looms over Jean and Cyclops on the bridge of the peak, but it's almost like Jean is like it's kind of meant to look holographic, but you almost get the sense that maybe Jean is constructing it with like dust particles in the air from her telekinesis. Like it's just neat. It's a cool moment.
It is pretty cool. Yeah.
But speaking of cool moments, I mean, Magic opening the portal is pretty cool, but not as cool as what happens a page later, because Larraz draws Jean Grey getting the "to me, my X-Men" moment. And this had to be my number one moment of the whole thing. Not only because it's Jean, but this page is crazy. He draws pretty much.
Pump?
I like fist pumped, I cheered, and also I started counting all the characters. This is almost the full cast of every single book in the Dawn of X line. I mean, there's so many of them crammed in. There's Phantom X in the deep background. There's Gwenpool. There's Dupe. They're just everywhere. It's amazing. Skin, Eunice. There's just so many.
Yep. Chamber, Richter, Gambit, Rogue. I mean, the big ones. And I mean, even Magma is there. Even I believe there's Honey Badger is there too, but I'm not sure if that's her.
I did not see her.
Just to the right of to the left of Mirage.
Huh.
Is that Honey Badger? The one in purple?
Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, I miss her.
Wait, where?
Huh?
So
yes, to the right of to the left of Mirage. If you're reading the page.
I don't know who Mirage is.
Mirage is the one.
I don't know. I don't know who Mirage is.
That's fine. That's fine.
But the thing is, like, I mean, if anyone have listened to the previous episode that I was ranting about, this shot made me cry again, because I'm like, they brought everyone over to die.
Right.
Like, what if
nobody
they
behind, right? Who's still there?
Nobody behind. Like, all their big shots, including Beast. What on earth Beast is going to do over here?
Isn't Beast in the middle of being put on trial yet again in X-Force right now? Like,
no,
why?
putting Colossus on trial.
Oh, right.
I guess
that's why Colossus isn't here.
Yeah. They also brought their last captain. They also brought their last captain, Nathan Bishop, in here. Yeah. Like, it's like, they couldn't leave at least him behind, that, hey, buddy, take care of us. Thank God if the 5 was here as well, I wouldn't have shown up for this episode. I would be like, I'm done. I'm done reading X-Men. I'm not going to read any more X-Men. I am done. I mean, if I actually looked, that's one of the reasons, when there's a team scene like that, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But this one, I actually looked. I even texted Tyler. I'm like, Tyler, the 5 is not there, right? And then Tyler's like, no, they're not. Them and the council people. I'm like, oh, thank God. Because or else I'll be done. I'm like, no, I don't care for these dumb people anymore. I don't care for this anymore.
Well, they actually make a mistake, because Quentin Quire is not supposed to be here.
Is he here? He's not here.
He's definitely in there.
Here.
But where is he supposed to be?
He's right beside Thunderbird.
Did he die recently?
Warpath.
Yeah.
No, he's captured in Russia.
He was captured in Russia,
right,
and no, he's decapitated. He decapitated.
No, not decapitated. He has the cerebral sword went through him and then pushed through the Krakoa gate by those nesting doors.
Right, but I thought that he died. I thought he died and they resurrected him.
Well, it appears that he died and they kept his body so that the those people could do what they did to Domino to him. Yeah, but I don't know if he really died. So that one I'm not 100% sure.
So I was mostly looking at it from the continuity error of they don't have any resurrection pods, and he died right around the same time. So how did they bring him back? So that's one of the reasons. But can we talk about Gwenpool?
That they did not
She's
know.
now a full.
Oh, you have not read.
Have you not read Gwenpool?
Strikes Back?
Oh,
I have. That's what I'm saying. I have. And that's what I'm saying. I have read it. And then the fact that they're continuing on with it, that they did not just dropped it. I mean, I know that she shows up in X Factor 3. It's like, what's going on? It's like, we're going in a tie-in. And then X Factor 3, even though Storm is there and it kind of ruins the thing, I honestly thought that it kind of brings over here that it's just a portal, because she actually falls through a portal. And I thought that this is actually a tie back to that. But the problem is Storm is there, so it doesn't make sense. But the fact that she's actually now a full-fledged mutant and they're accepting that, I'm like, leave her behind. Then she can protect everyone. She
well,
can just
you would think she knows
everything.
better. She's like, she should be like, hold on. Like, I've read one of these comic events before, and I know that it's the minor characters who get killed off for effect. Look what happened to Rockslide. I'm not going down there.
The red
like in my head, I've got this whole Gwenpool.
No, or maybe she thinks that she's no longer a minor character, you know, or she thinks that she's no longer a minor character, and then she just wanted to see what happens to her. And then, you know, she's like, oh yeah, if we're all going, we know that we're going to be surviving, so let's go. She's the Isca of the team. Like, she genuinely is the Isca of Krakoa.
Well, I just love that she's like right in the middle. It's like she's drawn in a way that you cannot possibly miss her to be, you know, which is like here, Leah Williams' joke has gone so far that here we are in X of Swords Destruction in a splash page of all of our favorite mutants, and Gwenpool's in the middle. If you haven't read Leah Williams' Gwenpool series, first, I would say, have you read Gwenpool? Because her original series by Christopher Hastings is amazing. It is the modern day version of Animal Man. And then if you have read that, I would say, have you read Leah Williams' Gwenpool series? And then you'll understand what we're all raving about. But back to the rest of the X-Men. You know, it's interesting, Fariha, you talk about the potential stupidity of them all coming over. But I do think that this helps contextualize that more people agreed with Jean and Cyclops' point than did with like the villain point, right? Because there's the sense of them saying like, well, look, it's not only our friends, it's if we're willing to let this battle be lost on that side, then we're saying we're going to be fighting to defend our nation, our island, in the way that Tyler was talking about last episode. Screw that. We're just going to go and win the war. And so really the fact, you know, that there's so many non-X-Men. I mean, there's characters in this montage that are not traditional X-Men characters that don't have that motivation of like, let's go save Cable the way the rest of them do. So this is that the fact that those people are in the montage characterizes it for me as much more of a movement. It's much more about like, this is not a fight that we're willing to lose, more so than it is like, let's go save Cable and Storm. Because some of them just don't give a shit.
Yeah, and that too, and then some of them, but maybe not. But the thing is, like, it's also the rule of like leader to convince people. Look at what's happening in America. Our leader doesn't wear masks, so rest of the America, half the America decided they don't want to wear masks. So if the leader is saying that, hey, we should go and do this, people are gonna follow. And also, most of the people that in here are also touched by Professor X. Sounds awful when I say it, but they're all like in, like, you know, kind of professor, like, you know, been in Xavier school, and they're all in that mentality that they're still thinking in a small scope rather than the big scope.
Well, yeah, but not all of them. I mean, there were a few who were villains, but you know, but
yeah, I know they're not. But then that's what I'm saying though. It's like why they have brought their CIA. Every member of their CIA is in there. Every member of their captains are in here. They left nothing behind, and that's I don't know. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just to be honest, it's bigger than them.
To be honest, I mean, my thinking as I spoke about it like last episode, is slightly different, and I actually got goosebumps when I came to this page, and this is almost like the Avengers Assemble moment in Endgame, where you know almost every characters that you know came to the rescue. You know, did we really earn it in this crossover? My answer would be no. But did we earn it within Hotspot stocks? I think hell yeah, we did.
It feels like a moment that's much more of a reward for sticking with Dawn of X than it is a reward for this crossover, because none of these characters have had any impact in this crossover at all. Like it feels like much more of a moment for like, you have reached the end of the first act of Jonathan Hickman's Dawn of X. Enjoy this fight featuring all of the X-Men that you love. It felt very that to me.
For me, it's more like, you know, they came together and formed a country, and now it's time to defend the country. That's my take, you know, like how I explained it last episode.
Right.
I know Fariha has a very different approach, which is why she got so mad at like all the X-Men, everyone like basically saying that, well, I can die, doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, because that's one of the things, like, that you were talking about, the earning within the Hoxbox docs.
Yeah.
I don't see it, though, because I don't think there's still a country. There's still a nation, because there's, like, still so much flaws and so many things going wrong. Even we've seen some of that even within this crossover because of the how they're dealing with resurrection and all of that. So that's one of the reasons I'm like, I know that it's a very much a fan service, and I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's a very cool, but then I started thinking, I'm like, oh, now I'm gonna be mad about it. But it's a cool thing. But the thing is, like, I mean, it's not.
Well, speaking of people who like to wear masks and sometimes don't, we have Genesis here, who's in a fight with Apocalypse, and Apocalypse has finally prevailed upon her, perhaps, that he loves her so much that he's willing to take part of some consensual stabbing with her, and she's just so tired of fighting, but the mask will not let it go. And you get the sense that, and we're going to come back to this, I'm sure, in a few minutes, that the Genesis put on the mask so reluctantly, which is what we learned from that retelling and then re-retelling of her story, that maybe she came to it with the wrong motivation. And even though she's always thought of herself as the fittest, she doesn't necessarily have what it takes to stop it anymore. And so this starts to get seated here where she's saying, I'm so tired, I can't do it anymore. But before we can come back to that, Cable realizes that he has had an important MacGuffin this whole time.
He's a fool.
He's the fool, and he's a fool with a sword, and he needs Mom, Dad, and the Magic School Bus to take him to the peak to unleash the ghost people that we met for one issue and turn out to be the main Deus Ex Machina of this whole story. Speaking of things we didn't earn, this is where I think I ultimately turned against X of Swords, because I thought the ghost people in Cable was a cool future thing. It let some foreboding moments with Jean, had her mind been infected, but here we're just using them pretty much straight up as the army of the undead from Return of the King in Lord of the Rings, and it just didn't work for me at all. Like, I just totally checked out. I was like, well, I guess we're done here. We were talking last episode about, like, how beautiful it was to have the rug underneath of us that we expected to have underneath of us, and even though this was something that did get hinted at, I just feel like it was too abstract, too minor, too off to the side to give me any kind of emotional resonance when they came through, even though it was a cool visual moment. And this is when I just was done. I don't know. Am I just being my normal curmudgeon, hateful self, or is there something to this complaint?
I mean, the thing is, like, doesn't it also negates the reason for all the X-Men to be there? Because you don't need it all. You needed all these Deus Ex Machina. Like, it's like one after another. First the Captain Britain, then the X-Men, then this. So it's like, get rid of some. So at least that's one of the reasons I'm like, okay, so which, like, we're doing all of this, but then this is also very Marvel event.
Yeah, this is where it just, like, went full on to Marvel event. Like, we only got one page of result from all those X-Men coming over. All of that build up, all of the argument in the council, all of our misgivings about if it was good for Krakoa or not. And do you know what we got out of it? One page. Like, it just feels anticlimactic to have built that theme this whole time and be like, just kidding, it was ghosts.
Well, and
that's what I'm saying. So from that point of view, it was only just Cyclops and Jean that just needed to be here.
Yeah.
No one else needed to come.
No, but this is also the point where I think the plan failed. Like, you are bringing in an unknown factor that so you bring them right into the middle of your enemy and they start attacking the enemies. What happened after they win? So what happened after they kill the enemy? This is not your people. This, in fact, they do not discern between friend and foe. They're out to destroy everything. So did they ever stop to think that, let's bring them down, let them destroy the enemy, and then what?
Yeah, I didn't find it to be very well considered. It kind of just ruined I was so in that fist pump moment, and some really cool things happened after this, but it kind of just took me out. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some people are watching the show and they're like, there's Peter being a hater again. But it's like, I just want good stories, and I just don't think it was very good.
No, this part wasn't logical.
But I want to be the hater this week. Peter doesn't get to be the hater. I want to be the hater.
Well,
I didn't hate it. I did not hate it, but I still don't like this point because it.
No, but the thing is, like, it also means that if because they kill indiscriminately, that means they also kill some mutants off screen.
Right, and if they get killed off screen, like we end this whole thing basically with no mutants having died in Otherworld except for Betsy, kind of, and Gorgon.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows that the whole being scattered thing was always a little bit of a misdirection. But then you're going to bring in this whole other army, and we're not going to see any mutant die from that either. It just seems, I don't know, it really made me angry. But let's move on.
You also forgot about Nanny and Gray.
Oh, well, I wasn't counting the Hellions because they weren't there officially.
They did not die. They did not die in Otherworld.
Yes, they did.
3 of them did.
No, they did not.
Yes, they did.
They died.
3 of them did.
No. They died in Amenth. Amenth is not part of Otherworld.
Yeah, but the rules still apply. It's still not. They're not going to be able to get to
the rule only applies if they're in Otherworld, right? So
yeah, but Amenth is on the other side of Otherworld.
Right. So it's like Earth. So there's no reality meshing in Amenth.
Oh, look at that.
But do they have psychic reception there?
Okay, that's the other thing. But then it will not be corrupted. So maybe they will forget everything after they pass through the gate.
Anyway.
But yeah.
Well,
yeah, but
that's an interesting point. I mean, it's fun to go back for the stuff because just because we talk about something for an hour, like we didn't actually get all the way across that in Hellions, but now you start thinking about it. Look, but we get another beautiful Renaissance painting from Pepe Larraz here because Apocalypse puts on the mask. This was genuinely shocking to me. Like, I really did not think that he was ever going to put on the mask. And when he did, I was just like, oh no. Like, I just didn't know what to think.
This was my fist pump moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, things are about to go down. And it kind of did. But kind of sort of anticlimactic. It's like, oh, I surrender. Like, go against the will. And I'm like, oh, okay, there you go.
But I think something
survivor of the fittest.
Something that was really cool about the way that was communicated was it's not like the fight changes that much. Like, we see that the fight is still going on and Saturnyne is panicked and everybody's talking and we see the reflection in the mask. And then the way that it's ultimately communicated to us is not by Apocalypse going, rah, rah, it's communicated because Isca changes sides, which in turn
by changing color.
Yeah, and in turn, she's
just a litmus paper, basically.
You say litmus paper. I was saying she's the swing state, you guys. She's the swing state of this election. No, when she turned one color, you're like, oh no, they're the winner. I was like, whatever.
Like, see, I thought this was great because it actually paid off. Like, as opposed to the stupid aliens, who cares? Isca, we endured so many jokes at that stupid dinner about how she always figures out how to be on the right side. Yeah. And like, and it's been so pervasive that she wins every tournament match that she's in. Like, this is the kind of thing I am looking for in the final chapter of a series. And if they lost me on the ghosts, 2 pages later, they got me back with Apocalypse and the Mask and Isca because I was like, this is so satisfying. Like it's a clear signal. Then the tides have turned. They didn't have to make up some bigger Deus Ex Machina or show Apocalypse punching a hole in reality, DC Superboy Prime style. They just showed us that Isca changed sides. I thought it was genius. Totally genius.
Can I ask who do you think Isca killed? It is obviously an X-Men.
It's Pyro. You can see the tanks on his back.
That's my thought too. But so she killed Pyro.
No, he might not be dead.
Pyro's Deadsville. See, I'm telling you. Why did you bring all of them?
Oh, but we can't see his face tattoo, so it's important.
I know, that's the thing.
And if he gets resurrected into a new body, is he going to get the face tattoo again?
Well, probably not. In his dream, he did not, right? in that fake dream.
So the thing is, like, with the Isca, the Unbitten, it's maybe because I don't like finicky people. Like, I don't like people who just turn onto the witch.
She's Fairweather Friends, bandwagon jumper.
She doesn't have a choice.
Yeah,
she does not have a choice. She must be on the winning side.
Okay, can I use that experience? Can I use that excuse from now on? I must be on the winning side.
Yeah,
but it's so interesting. Like, she's literally a bellwether. Like, she has to signal. It's something we didn't consider. All that talk we did about her power, we never really made it all the way to this example of, like, it's not actually such an interesting thing that she wins. It's an interesting thing that she winds up letting you know who will win. That's so much more interesting to me.
And that's why she's the new Omega mutant.
Is she an Omega mutant?
Yeah.
It is written. It is written in the data pages.
Oh, number 15.
Yeah, and then that's also. But the thing is, that's also the thing, because if we know the definition of Omega mutants, it's like it's very impossible for humans to achieve that. It's like, how on earth anyone is supposed to achieve that? You can't even compete with this. Like, this is just like, this is not even. No, she should not be an Omega woman.
This is she has to be, because this is universal skill, like probability changing. So basically she changed color. She's, that side is going to win, and she changed all odds and they win.
Well,
that's how I think of it.
Here's the other half of why I think it's so interesting. We got earlier, and I teased, that Genesis can't surrender because Genesis thinks you have to be fit and you have to be the strongest. And so if Genesis surrenders in the fight, by extension, Genesis will have also surrendered to Annihilation, which means Annihilation will win and not surrender and then take over everything, which is kind of sort of what we got. But she never officially surrendered. I think things would have been even worse had she actually said, I surrender. Mm-hmm. But now you have Apocalypse surrendering. And I think it's more effective because as a reader, I would have been like, wait, Apocalypse gets to surrender? But it's almost like Isca already told us that this is going to work. And so when we got to him surrendering, instead of as a reader having to like, oh, is this going to work? Can he surrender? I already knew because Isca was already signaled. I was like, this is going to work. So just narratively, it did this really interesting thing where it like already showed me whatever would happen next was a good thing. And so then when it happened, I got really excited because I already knew it was a good thing.
Well, the other thing also is that in the fight in last issue, like Storm and Apocalypse were speaking in Krakoan. Storm was like, hold fast. And Apocalypse was saying, never surrender.
And yet,
here he surrenders.
Yeah.
After putting on the
right, but the thing is, like, that was because he was saying that because he is like, he was telling the rest of them not to because he's planning on doing it.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Well, not at that time because he has not won the helmet yet.
Well, do you think he has the end game to win the helmet?
Yeah, isn't that was his plan the whole time? So that's why he was saying like, don't do it because I have a plan.
No, but
that's how I read it.
I don't. Okay, hold on. Who do you think he's surrendering to?
Saturnyne. Yeah. But so by extension, he's also surrendering while wearing the helmet, which could be a surrender to the helmet, but in this case is not.
No, it's not. He's basically, because he wears control it, therefore when he surrenders, he's also saying the helmet surrenders.
Exactly.
In this way.
That's what I took it for. And but that's how I took it as that he's playing Saturnyne's game of constant changing rules. So he actually beat Saturnyne at her own game by doing that. Okay, I am going to wear this. I'm surrendering. I thought that was a very... So the thing is, how you were saying that, Isca turning color gave you that. Yeah. As soon as he wore the mask, because I actually reread all the other issues and everything, so I kind of had a little bit more understanding memory, I actually knew at that point that, he's playing... Like, I got more excited by that, and knowing that how this is going to end, because I'm like, he's actually beating Saturnyne at her own game of constant rule changing, constant winning, word games that she was playing, and then she got her.
Well, and she loves it. She's like, she's been waiting for somebody to play on her level. And then she's like, ooh, here's one person who's like worthy. All these people have tried to subvert and play tricks and kill me or whatever. Here's Apocalypse, the only one who's really playing this game on the same level that I'm playing this game.
Exactly.
And so she remakes the mask into a beautiful staff, and she said, and it's clearly arguing with her even as she's doing it. And she says this very curious thing: this is a better look for you and a deeper lore if you want it. What does that mean?
I have no idea, because why did she pass it to Genesis? Doesn't it belong to Apocalypse now?
And what a lure for what?
Yeah.
A lure for people to buy into the power, because you have to be more complicit, right? Like with the helmet kind of speaking in your voice, sitting on top of your thoughts. It's like you're always in a struggle against it. It's the struggle is part of it. And so it's harder to submit. But if you turn the power into something that you wield instead of something that you bear, by wielding it, does it make the power that much more seductive? Is that what she means by saying it's a better lure?
That's interesting.
I took it more as like, you'll have to work harder. That will probably make you more attractive to the wielder.
I think that is another fine interpretation.
Because the thing is, especially both Apocalypse and Genesis, they're very much of like survival of the fittest, or they're like very much of like they seek challenges. So the thing is like, it's like this way you will be challenging them more, and you will succeed eventually.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I'm like armor. I'm just sitting cross-legged on the battlefield. I'm like, because that's what she did. She's in her armor form, and she's just sitting down there and it's like listening to Saturnyne and changing whatever.
Well, the war has ended. Now it's like rest.
Yeah, but she's sitting cross-legged on the battlefield.
So cash.
She's like not like the rest of people are all standing with like, she's like just sitting there.
Well, now from here on out, it is what we know as denouement, which is the coming down from the climax, right? The conflict has ended. So we have a few pieces of denouement to take care of within the issue, and then a few to take care of ourselves here to wrap up this ongoing conversation we've had with you. So the first is the exchange of prisoners. Saturnyne says that they've got to exchange one mutant or each as a sign of good faith. Apocalypse decides that he's in charge of this whole thing, since he's the one who kind of negotiated, even though Cyclops is like, as a general, and Apocalypse is like, out of the way, boy.
No, I was Apocalypse at that time.
Yeah. So what did we think?
Yes.
Do you think it was a foregone conclusion Apocalypse would give up his seat on the council to go back to his family? And what do you think about Arakko being the mutant sent back in the other direction?
Well, that was in one of the very first card, I think, talking about sacrifice and talking about like one has to stay in the heartland. And, you can use one as a general grouping, or you can actually read it as really one. And in this case, it is really one.
Well, and Apocalypse got the lovers. That his fate was predicted as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So isn't that also like Apocalypse just, escaped his war crime tribunal, all of that, by just going, he's like, well, you know what, tell Professor X and Magneto, I'll see them
I will see them again.
I'll see them again,
convenient to me.
I'll see them again. Meantime, let me just go and then, sleep with my fate. That's what he calls the sex between.
But he remains truthful to his word. To Krakoa,
which is that he would reunite them. He brought
Arakko back.
And that's fine, but then at the same time I would like to see him stand trial for his going against the council, putting everyone at risk, putting Krakoa at risk, and just doing this just for his own benefit, going back to my thing, like,
but I will see them again.
This is a mutant nation. But then it's like, no, you know what, I know what's going to happen if I go back. So, hey, guess what? You want me to go with you? I'll go with you. And here's Arakko in the meantime.
But
deal with these people as well.
But more interestingly is Arakko and all the mutants prisoners.
Yeah.
So who are these mutant prisoners? Are they the first gen mutants and their generation, their offsprings? Or are they the saber-tooth of Arakko that has been kept in the pit of Arakko? So who are these?
Saber-tooth of Arakko, but there would be
saber-tooth of Krakoa,
But that's what I'm saying.
Fariha's like, they might be the nice ones.
The inverse. They will be the nice ones. You know what I mean? But the thing is, so to that point, I recently read Imperium by Joshua Dysart, which was a book in Valiant. And in that one of the ways they tried to combat Toyo Harada by sending more refugees to him. You know, the world leaders tries to, and then because it causes a drain on their resource. Is that what Apocalypse doing? Sending both Arako and with all of their people in there, just causing a resource draining.
Well, and also like this idea of how are they going to integrate? Do they even want to be on Earth? Like, yes, they came from the same land originally, and originally we're all of one. But it's kind of comes back to our eternal immigrant question, right? It's like, are they going to ever really be able to be citizens of our world, citizens of Earth, citizens of Krakoa, when everything about their lives have been Arako? Are they going to add to that culture and help to improve it? Or are they going to always kind of resist it? And it's a really interesting philosophical question. I think it's going to be one of the big topics probably going into this next period of Reign of X.
Yeah. I mean,
and it also kind of reflects on. It also reflects on Jewish population moving to Israel after World War II, because a lot of them had to move against their will. Like, you know, even after the liberation of camps and everything, they representative from Israel really pretty much came to them and then took them away. Like, you know, there was like a whole topic you can just you can read up on that, and it was kind of reminded me a little bit of that as well, that against their wish, like they were just handed off by one man's wish.
Yeah, just one decision, right?
One man's decision.
Well, go ahead, Tyler. You've been waiting very patiently. Well,
no. I mean, I was just thinking that like this is a great way to sort of like, this is going to be the next phase of the story.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, no surprise here. They called it something of X again, which is Reign of X. So let's rocks it.
Yeah, it's time to rocks. Time for rocks. You never really talk about rock with an X. Like, you say this rocks. You don't usually say the verb, like I love rock and roll. You never say rocks. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So here's another thing that I think Tyler can start us off on, since he got through us expounding upon those points just now. Tyler, you wanted to talk about the idea of fate here, right? Yeah. And like how much of this was always ordained to happen, and how much of it was variable, and how much did anybody have any control over at all? So what are your thoughts on that? Because
like Saturnyne has been saying, Saturnyne says that this is all preordained. And so, you know, it sort of leads me to the thought of like, you know, are all this a slavery to fate and fortunes, right? So many times when you have your fortune read, you know, does it mean that it is fixed? Does it mean that you cannot change it because, you know, you have seen the future? This is your fortune, and this is a very important or a very accurate reading, you know, and that means that, you know, whatever you do can never change the outcome, which is kind of which is kind of like parts of a lot of those stories where things are like preordained because you have your future read. Therefore, it becomes fixed. If you have not have it read, it is not fixed. That kind of thing. And in some ways, the theme of Moira's resurrection, you know, her past 9 lives has been fixed. Is fixed to failure. Does it mean that this 10th life is also fixed in the sense that it will fail again?
Oh, please don't say that.
I know you're going to make Free even more heartbroken after last episode. Look, I take maybe a slightly different read of that, just because it's the kind of optimist that I am, that like the future is going to unfurl the way the future is going to unfurl. And once you have it predicted, in a fictional sense, once you have it predicted, it becomes its own self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like it's going to happen the way that it happened, and you're going to assume that the prediction predicted it. And it's kind of this like forcing it onto a line of best fit, right? It's almost like a logical fallacy of making something adhere to the way you expected it. And I think that that's part of what Saturnyne is doing. We get this wonderful walk and talk where her, you know, minister fish person is like fawning over like, oh, you planned it all. And she's like, I did. But did she really? Because she didn't get Brian back, and she didn't didn't know what was going to happen with the mask. So all she really planned or predicted or whatever was that she was going to win, and that the things in the tournament that she wanted to happen were going to happen. But that was just what she controlled. Yeah. And ultimately, she's just bending this narrative to fit, which she always predicted. So I don't, there's nothing good or bad or right or wrong about that. But I just, as a reader and as somebody who, you know, believes that we have some control and agency as characters here in the real world, that's the way that I read it. That Saturnyne was trying to be satisfied with how much she got right, but really she got what she got, and she's got to live with it now.
Yeah. Because it's like the fish lady was telling her, say, congratulations, lady. You have won.
You nailed it.
Deserve to have all that you desire. And I was like, no, she did not.
No.
She did not get
she
her
didn't
desire.
Get anything she desired.
Yeah. Fariha, you
Brian
want to say something?
No, Brian the human is still in her court, so maybe, who knows? Where's Brian's wife? He's like just not caring about his wife and his
Megan.
children.
Megan's so much cooler than Brian. Fariha, one day you're gonna get to know Megan.
Yeah, when we get there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just sick and tired of these ex-ladies or like, you know, mutant ladies just being settled with boring people all the time. No, but the thing is, to the point of fate and fortune and all of that, I mean, I think that it was mostly that, the fate brings all the players together, but then it's like, and then everyone kind of, you don't know how everyone's going to react, and especially given that there's so many players. So I think her thing was like, she kind of got the right player that she or got the players that she thinks are going to get her the win, but didn't necessarily get her all the wins because of the things that she didn't predicted, which is like Betsy taking the sword away, or like, you know, the love spell backfiring, the mask thing happening. And like, you know, so that's kind of how I look at fate versus like, you know, preordained destiny versus free will.
Well, look, we have one more thing to wrap up in the issue itself before we do some wrap-up chat. And I'm actually, again, going to turn it over to Tyler because it's very receipt-oriented. It's these final data pages, and there's a lot of information. We will not go through it line by line. I mean, it goes through where all the swords wound up, and by extension, where their holders wound up. It goes through all of the new or the prominent new Captain Britons that we got. It asks us a lot of questions, and you could pore over it yourself. But Tyler, from your perspective, what are some of the most interesting highlights here that people should be keeping their eye on as we move into Reign of X?
Well, there's a few things that I thought were kind of important regarding the... let's do a little bit of the new Captain Britain core first.
Okay.
So first thing is, where is 616 Betsy?
TBD. Nowhere to be seen.
My guess is that she is that piece that Brian was holding. So that's, and she wasn't in the mosaic. So that's why when Saturnyne cast a spell, she did not appear, you know. So, but that's my guess. And then one of the captain that was resurrected is Captain Krakowica. That was from World 78, Multiverse 78. And that, I think Multiverse 78 has never appeared before, or at least from my research, I couldn't find anything. So, you know, it talks about Krakowica, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, 78.
So Multiverse 78.
Yeah. 78.
Krakoa is equivalent of Britain. They're the equivalent of Britain. That means they are the world conqueror. I want to be in 78. Is there a gateway to 78? That's where I want to be.
It doesn't look like there's ever been a 78 before. So this is a new designation.
A new designation. And then I think the other designation which was something that X Twitter has been guessing all along is that is Captain UK in seat 839. And this was the world that Captain UK was assigned after Set Year 9 was defeated.
Different than Saturnyne. Set Year 9. Very subtle, but not the same.
So Set Year 9 is basically the really evil version of Saturnyne. And she is obsessed with Brian. So a lot of people in X Twitter were guessing that this Saturnyne is not the original Saturnyne, but Set Year 9. Posing as her. The only way you can tell is from a tattoo on her right thigh. And all throughout this crossover, her slit is on the left side. So you never get to see her right thigh exposed.
Well, and also it should be pointed out
Ryan should have taken up on that offer that Wolverine had.
It should be pointed out that that is an existing Earth, as Tyler mentioned, that you know, ties in, and that the original Captain UK was actually one of the non-Brian Braddock Captain Britons. It was a different character.
And
so
the evil one.
If you go on to the Marvel wiki, marvel.fandom.com, not associated with Marvel, they have a great page of all of the universes that have been explicitly numbered, and it is pretty comprehensive. I'm sure they've missed a couple here and there, but it's got dozens and dozens of them. So I would say, you know, go down this list and see if any. There's some really cool ones that Tyler has already pointed out in our notes. There's a Spider-Gwen universe one, and Spider-Gwen's universe doesn't have a lot of superheroes, so it's actually really interesting that there's a Captain Britain there. What are some of the, a couple of the other ones? What is it?
Sister Britain is the one from Spider-Gwen's verse.
So now, Tyler, let's talk now about the swords and the implication. Again, we're not going to talk about everyone.
Yeah.
But what is the implication that you find the most interesting out of these swords?
I think the swords will point to where some of the players are. For example, Red Root is still captured. Based on Krakoa. Isca, this is where she's mentioned as the Omega mutant. And she's the head. She's on Araco, which means that she's on Earth.
She's common, yeah.
Yeah, and she's the head of the Great Ring. Is that a Quiet Council equivalent of Krakoa?
Interesting.
I mean, of Araco. Sorry. Yeah. So this is what I thought was interesting. And then it mentions that the Twilight Blade was stolen.
Abandoned to whom?
Yeah, stolen.
Stolen, not abandoned. Stolen. Well, abandoned on the field of battle and stolen in the chaos of war. We're both right.
So it's like, you know, so that was something else. And then here comes the creepy ex-boyfriend thing. Warlock. I was like, you know, when they get to Warlock, the thing is this. What's the message here? It says, everything is fine. Nothing's going to change. Mutants get married all the time. We are going to be best friends forever.
Whereas the other side on the seducer says, everything is fine. Nothing's going to change. Mutants get married all the time. Kiss the blade, Doug. Learn to love it.
I was like, oh, Doug, you have no idea what you're
I know. I mean, I'm like, well, you don't know what's going to happen until, like, you know, you find a cooked rabbit in your pot in the heart of Krakoa, and you're like, what's happening? Who cooked my pet rabbit?
And let's remember, Doug was actually trying to keep the fact that he had Warlock on the DL before this all happened. And when the swords thing all came to light, he was like, oh yeah, I guess the gig is up. I've had Warlock this whole time. But this was already a point of speculation. Like, what is he doing with Warlock? We thought we saw Warlock infecting some of the plants on Krakoa. And now Warlock is like in a jealous third wheel situation, which says nothing of Krakoa, who might be infected with Warlock. I mean, this is clearly going to continue to be a plot point. But talking, so look, now that we've kind of wrapped up the stuff that's in the issue.
Oh, and there's one more thing.
One more.
Like Cable's sword is actually still powering the pig.
Right. So he's where goes the sword, maybe also goes Cable.
Yeah, so that's why I think he's appearing in like sword number 1. I think he was on the cover or something.
And we're like another series with Cable, really? But it's like because his sword is there. But also, what's going to happen with the Swords of Gorgon, right? Like Gorgon, is he going to be resurrected? What is he going to be? And then also, where is Solemn right now? He has been conspicuously absent ever since all of the tournament fighting.
He appears in a panel here.
Sneaking away?
Sneaking onto Earth at the Avalon Gate.
And
so
then
he got hots for Wolverine now.
Yeah.
So that's why that's where he is going.
Yeah.
And then we have Apocalypse walking off into the sunset with his children.
Yeah. So where are they going? They're going because Araco is now part of. So they're going back to Amenth. Oh, okay. So,
I guess. I mean,
because he who wears the crown controls the land.
And now it's whoever holds the staff controls the land.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So she's holding. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it is she now, because Apocalypse basically won. So that's the part which I don't understand why it was switched.
I mean, Apocalypse just letting her do all the finances and stuff, bookkeeping and all of that, while he's just.
Then the other thing was that, like, Saturnyne basically is using the summoners and the Vescora, which is like the alien thing, to mine black smoke.
Yeah.
And then what is shown is that purple crystals. And these purple crystals has been popping up all over Hotspot Docks. So it was in a pit in the transit gateway transit zone of Krakoa. It was a crystal that the Dr. Gregor was using as she was trying to resurrect her husband. And
they're very Nimrod-esque.
Yeah, and also the external gate
was
like it's made
purple
from
crystals.
Purple crystals.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting here is like this does not have to be all there is of Otherworld, and it could be that this story goes on to have more resonance for us. I mean, it's easy to say now, like, all right, great, like I guess we're never going to see Blightsmoke again, or we're never going to see Sevalith again. But like here we are with Death still standing in Sevalith, who got made into maybe a vampire by the Sevalith vampire. So like hopefully some of these will still pay off, and maybe some of them might pay off in Excalibur, but some of these threads are going to explode elsewhere, like the thing with Solemn and stuff. So which brings me to our points of discussion that are not explicit in the book. So the first one I want to talk about is I want to talk about who is your most valuable player that was not introduced here. We'll get to the folks that are brand new, but who really shone for you in this X of Swords story in a way that made you really love them? Fariha.
So for me, I kind of thought about that. And then it seems like every choices I picked later on, I'm like, oh, wow, are they really that good? I think the one that's kind of like mostly stuck with me is Storm, because she was kind of chosen for this, and then she had to go and then against her, like, kind of fight with the Wakandan and get the sword and everything. And even when she was here, she was trying to kind of keep a diplomatic and more carried herself more as a quiet council woman, instead of just like, ha ha ha, like, as we have seen rest of the X-Men have, like, or rest of the Krakoans have become. Then also, like, there's the dance with the dead and all of that. And then she decisively took him down, and so I think from that point of view, and even then later on, like, she was blasted Genesis and was like, we have to move because, she's not going to get stunned. Like, she was taking initiatives and all that. Like, I feel like in terms of like, she showed to be the true, like, true leadership skills and like a true leader of the Krakoan team. So from my point of view, it would be her.
Tyler?
Well, I did think about Storm, but then I rejected it.
Of course you did.
Yeah, part of it was because...
Oh my God. Because
part of it was because she... I think my main reason was because she actually approved Wolverine's plan.
Tyler's never going to get over it.
Saturnyne.
Nor should
That's
he.
the thing
but
which I hate.
He really hates it.
But do you think she knew that it was a Saturnyne? That's why she probably knew.
Maybe. But and the other thing that kind of minor was that she got drunk and she tried to kiss Wolverine, which is like, no.
I mean, listen.
So my MVP.
When I got drunk. Sorry. What?
So my MVP is actually Jubilee.
Nice.
Ooh.
I love her.
Because I think in this, her motivation and, she did not let her emotions take over what she has to do. She knew she has to stay there to fight. She knew that, that she might lose Shogo forever, but she still stayed with the X-Men to fight and to prevent the Starlight Citadel from getting overrun, which meant Krakoa getting overrun or invaded in this sense. Peter, who's yours?
I'm really torn between two, but I think I'm going to have to go with Magic, because I've grown to love Magic over the years. I didn't understand it. Like when they brought her back in 2010, or actually it was like more like 2008 and 9 in Ex Infernus, right? Because it was before the New Mutants run. I was like, why are people so excited? Just let her be dead. Like, come on. But they've just chipped away at me and again. But she went from a character that was just a New Mutants character to then a character that was just in the edges of panels and X-Men being their Magic school bus, to then being a character who has some funny lines, to now for the first time time, I think, since the 80s, feeling like a fully realized character. And while I didn't love how she was the butt of so many jokes and she gave us so many funny moments, I think there were enough moments of her being competent and her being resolved and her being a captain that we come out of this with, once again, this feeling that like she is part of the A-list X-Men. Like we just had a whole series where Magic had so much panel time. She's not going anywhere. She didn't die, and she's here to stay. And she's a character that now kind of feels like, between this and also the way that Hickman wrote her in a sort of irreverent way in New Mutants, she feels real and like round and dynamic to me in a way that I don't know, even in the past 10 years of enjoying her, she has felt. She felt very kind of one-notish, and now she really feels fully real. But I almost said Brian the Human. Because I did a brief defense. We so rarely get to see the ramifications of the fact that he's so tied in with mutants. Like, he's on their side a lot, but we aren't made to think about it very much. And this was one of the first times that I really felt like in a long time that anybody is like, yeah, but think about what it means that his sister is a mutant and that his brother is a mutant and this place is a homeland for mutants. And think about like if he feels any dedication. And we had that great moment with him talking about like do it for country, but he was talking about Krakoa instead of Britain. And I just was like, this is actual character growth for Brian the Human in our year of Lord, 2020. Here it is. But really my pick is Magic. All right, round 2. Who is your favorite newly introduced character in this? Talking about people that we've met. It doesn't have to just be from creation. It could be any of these kind of like summoner kind of characters that we've just been introduced to gear up for this. Fariha, who's your favorite newbie?
So...
Naked White Bat.
Huh? No, I mean, he's kind of cool looking, but he kind of died so easily. But I was actually mostly kind of impressed by Genesis, and not necessarily,
I did not expect you to say
everything.
that.
Yeah, I did not expect you to say that too.
So, what were you expecting?
I don't know, but I just didn't think you were going to pick Genesis.
You'll be like, I thought you'll be like Competence Pod. Isca.
Yeah, one of the big muscly ladies. But tell us about Genesis. I'm really curious to hear your reason.
Yeah. No, okay. So the problem with Isca is like I just don't know how her power works. Like I feel like her power is just by luck. Like I don't support those things. Okay, just because you were born with it, it's just wielding and
maybe it's Maybelline,
changing boats and whatever. Yeah, but the thing is like with the Genesis, because I was actually first of all is like her character design, I really liked that because she was one of the very first human mutant, and she's not drawn white. Like, she's actually drawn like, as a colored woman. I mean, that to me, that was like a very like, spot on. And not necessarily because, she's like, she really embraced the whole survival of the fittest. And that even though she closed the door behind her husband and then kind of like, she did her best with the children and, she was like, just kind of keeping it together. And then, finally when the time needed, she actually faced Annihilation. And then even though she resisted it for as long as she could, finally just kind of, she had to do something and in a way bridge the gap. And we saw the event that came true. So I think from that point of view, she was like, an interesting character that I hope we get to see more of,
Tyler, what about you? Favorite new character?
White Sword. Because I think I kind of like his powers. Like it comes at a cost. He can heal people, but he also has not a cost to him, but a cost to who he resurrected. Right. And it's like, and he has the power to like, basically make them serve him for forever. And then I also like his kind of warped sense of honor and duty. Basically, it's like, this is what I do, and this is my honor, and this is my, and this is what I'm on the board for. If it's done, it's done. I'm not going to fight your war for you just because, it's convenient or just because I'm there. And he's like, everyone gathers around me and let's go. That's what he said to his to whoever is left from his 100 champions. So I thought that was I just thought it was pretty interesting in that sense.
I feel like I've come the farthest with him because like when they first introduced him, I'm like, all right, here's sword guy on sword team. But like I find that I'm genuinely interested. I'm like, I hope that's not the last of him. And I didn't really ever expect to feel that way about that kind of character, sword guy, you know? So I feel like good on the crew here that wrote this because they actually made me care about him, which I did not expect.
Yeah.
And I actually want to see, like, you know, from the point of view of one of the person he resurrected, like how their days their days goes. Like, you know, they just resurrected, fights, dies, and then resurrected again.
Fights, dies. Yeah.
That would be, I mean, thinking of all the glimpses we've seen of life in Arakko and like life in Amenth, like I would actually be really intrigued by a sequence like that, where we just like, you know, almost like an anthology issue or something, just follow one of them getting up in the morning, doing their thing, dying and getting up in the next morning, like Groundhog's Day.
And I want it to be silent. It better be silent.
Yeah.
It only works if it's a silent issue.
So I really thought about this for a while, and I really thought it was going to be Isca because I'm like so fascinated by all the implications of it. But I think it's Redroot just because I'm obsessed with the visual design. Like you can remember when they first introduced her, and I just was like going on and on, or them. I don't think we've decided. I was just going on and on and on about it. And even though there was some like goofy kind of like they moving slowly through the market and getting stuck in the bottle, there's just something so interesting to me that about them in opposition to Doug. That Doug is the translator, but he's kind of part machine because of Warlock, and Redroot is actually more like the land and more like a biological entity. And I just think in a whole group of really visually striking designs, Redroot's is the most different. You know, like I love War's design, but we've seen that. It's very magma, but like Redroot's design to me just really stands out from all the other characters. And again, especially with Arakko coming over, like Arakko's going to miss Redroot. Like what if Doug was left behind? Krakoa would have been pissed. So I think that like this cannot be the last that we've seen of Redroot, even though they're still stuck in a bottle. Which brings me to our... go ahead.
No, I was just going to say though, because now Arakko doesn't have a voice.
Right.
So what if Krakoa just misrepresent whatever he pleases?
But you assume that could be both, you know.
But will Arakko accept Doug?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Maybe Doug doesn't understand that language, or maybe, you know, Beta.
Well, that's Doug's power.
Yeah, Bay is special.
Languages. Yeah, except for Bay.
So now this is my final go round here. You don't have to just do one, but don't be naming the whole line. Okay. Out of all of the storylines that are going to emerge from this, and all of the storylines that we had on hold from the series before that are now going to come back alive, what are you like, you cannot wait to see resume in the next month, Fariha?
Obviously Marauders, you know, Kill Shaw storyline. Where's that going? Yeah, let's go. And then Hellions, which is super surprising. Like, you know, it's like, what are they going to do? And then, you know, because because when I was rereading it in Hellion 5, I just love that, you know, when Amenth was brought back, Professor X actually says that I have a visitor or something, and then just hands him off to Rachel, and then just walks away from it. So I just want to see
Rachel, Hope.
Yeah,
because all the red hat get confused.
Yeah, it's like I have visitor, you know, deal with this, you know. So the thing is, like, I just like these characters, and you know, I rereading Hellion 5 and then see that the what Quenon and Grey Worm, the one that leaves me. Grey Crow, and then, you know, kind of their relationship and everything. So I am kind of interested into seeing how this all, you know, goes. And I also like, what is Sinister's plan now that he has all the thing? What is his plan? So I'm super excited for these two things.
Tyler,
I think coming out directly from this storyline, I'm kind of interested to see who will replace Jean in the council and who will replace Apocalypse.
Is there going to be a vote?
I don't know. Is there going to be election?
Yeah. Is there going to be election? Ooh.
I have no idea. But I mean, I can think of like
college.
I can only think of one person who can replace Jean in the council, and that's not a good choice. And that's the intelligence officer. It's Beast.
No. That would be one. I was hoping you were going to say Maddie Pryor, because that would be juicy.
Ferrara is insane, and she hasn't been brought back, right?
Yeah,
she
chose
not to bring,
yeah.
to bring
because
back.
I was running through the whole group of the original 5 and the new batch of X-Men. There's not many choices, and I don't think they will put anyone else in Jean's place. So maybe old Cable, but old Cable is dead. There's only young Cable here. So yeah. I mean, that's my thinking.
Or maybe there's not, and then maybe there's not going to be any replacement because it's going to be Reign of 10.
It could be.
Right, because it's called, it was 12 and we're 2 down and it's called Reign of X, but we know the X's are 10.
Yeah,
so
it's a Reign of 10.
This is just going to be a Reign of 10.
And I agree with Fariha. I'm actually interested to see how Emma and Kate is going to take the revenge on Shaw. So that's another thing which I kind of am hoping to see.
Well, I would add to Fariha's vote of Hellions. I think coming out of this year, it might be my favorite of all of these books. Like, I just can't wait. I would devour it. I would read it every week. It's been, the writing's good, the art is good, the character choices are surprising. I've said again and again, I like it because it's like the rejects. I always love the X-Men books that have the least popular characters. That's just the way that I like my X-Men. So I'm really excited for Hellions, but I think I'm excited and also nervous for New Mutants. I historically don't really enjoy Vita Ayla, but I think that they did a really good job on the Marauders issue here. They haven't done a whole lot of work in the X office before, so it's like, who knows? Maybe Vita Ayla has been meant to be writing in the X office all this time. And if we think back to the shows that we did before all this, New Mutants was my favorite of the X books going in. And it has a lot of the characters that I want to read. I'm really interested in what happens with Doug. I'm really interested in what happens with Magic. I'm really interested to see more of Mirage and some of the more classic New Mutants. So I think I'm like excited and also nervous because I don't want to not like it. And I would love to finally have the connection with Vita's writing that so many other people feel that I just like don't seem to be getting. So I'm high anticipation, high anxiety about New Mutants. But also, if there's one thing I'm the most looking forward to, it is the return of Wolverine, Darwin, and Synch from the Children of the Vault portal, which has already been solicited, I think, for issue 18 of X-Men that comes out in February. So that is my number one. Like, can it be February? Because I'm so excited for that one.
Do you think that's going to be kick off like the next crossover or next big thing?
I mean, who knows? As if they need more people from Strange Doors to pop out and overrun.
So many like hanging threads.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the whole thing.
No, I'm not saying that it's happening next year, but maybe in the year 2020, like beginning of 2022, like this kind of like, kind of connects to that.
No, it can happen. Anything can happen, right? And that is definitely one of those hanging threads that Hickman has just basically wrote something and just left it there. And I mean, I don't know how. Yes, that's one of the things that he does really well, accidentally or on purpose. But I mean, I kind of also want to see the Moira story
finally
a little bit more traction, right? Because she has been sidelined for a long time.
Well, and something that Fariha pointed out to us as we were prepping for this episode is if you go back and read Marauders number
can I say?
15. Yeah, let me just set it. So the intro of Marauders 15, where we had that alternate vision of what would happen if Wolverine really did kill Saturnyne. Fariha, what did you notice on your reread?
So in the reread, one thing I noticed that it says over here that it says at the very end that Wolverine saw all of this happen. And one of the things that he saw happen is Moira X dying in her no place. So as far as Wolverine is concerned, Moira is dead. So we don't know how much of that information he's going to hold on to or how much of that he's going to care because from my reading of Wolverine, sometimes he gets focused on one thing only and then sometimes he just overlooks and then focuses on something different. So if he does gets locked onto that one thing, it could be a very interesting plot line for Wolverine solo series into like, what does it mean? Why did I see Moira? Why? He getting that fixation with him, and then it probably got to lead somewhere. Because as far as now we know, only Professor X and Magneto knows about Moira. Even Apocalypse doesn't know about Moira, right?
No.
So So yeah, so maybe, and I don't know whether the vision came to him in written form or it came in visual form, because if it's in written form, then he will be like, what does Moira X means? But if it came in like visual form, that probably doesn't matter. So I don't know, Oh, and then one other thing I want to see is like Nanny comes back, whether she's going to come back in her egg form, or
yes,
if she's going to be egg within an egg, or she's going to come back as human mutant form. That's another thing.
I read the solicits, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. But
don't.
No, I don't want to know. No hint.
Okay.
There's a reason I don't read. So look, I know.
I also want to say one other thing. Please bring Rasputin back and Cardinal.
Yeah, those
I mean, especially with Children of the Vault messing with time, and with Sinister messing with his own splinter mutants and chimeras.
Yeah,
who knows? So I know one of the things people that have been watching and listening are asking is This Week in X coming back now that we're done this? We got reassembled here as 3/4 of the Hickman report, because as we know, the protocols are backed up and Zach is still not back. We didn't really have a plan for going beyond this, but if you've been following on the channel or via the podcast, we have a lot of conversations going right now. We're also doing an epic X-Men reread of Claremont from the Start, which Fariha has never read before, so really exciting. And I do think you're going to see some continuing content from us in the coming weeks, although it might not always be the same kind of conversational depth that we got into here, and it might change the focus of it a little bit, but I would say stay tuned. Please subscribe, and we are so happy to be reading X-Men together and along with you, because X-Men is what, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. So with that, we leave you here at the end of X of Swords. Thank you so much for listening and making it fun for us to get back together and read this. So one final time, signing off from X of Swords, this is Peter, Fariha, and Tyler, and we are hoping that you all are very well and that we will see you again.
Bye. This is a pretty good recording.
Yeah, it was. And then I'm so excited to see how Reign of X goes. I mean, it's just going to be...
Fariha?
Wait, what happened?
Fariha?
Peter?
Where did she go?
Fariha? I have no idea.
Fariha?
Oh, oops.
I don't know.
Oh, no.